This was supposed to be a golden month ahead of a significant year for the Old Vic. A few weeks before artistic director Matthew Warchus is due to unveil his festive offering A Christmas Carol, we got notice of next year's bicentennial program with the attendant announcement that Prince Charles is to become royal patron for the 2018 celebrations. All that upbeat news has been blown out of the water, though, by the barrage of revelations about Kevin Spacey. In a dramatic reversal of fortune, one of London's most revered playhouses is in crisis. Allegations of sexually predatory behavior by Spacey during his time as artistic director at the Old Vic 20,042,015 have been steadily emerging ever since the American actor Anthony Rapp went public with claims of being on the receiving end of a sexual advance by the star at a party in 1986 when he was 14, an incident Spacey publicly stated he did not remember, but apologized for. That was on October 30th. The same day, a Mexican actor called Roberto Cavazos described in a translated Facebook post a couple of nasty encounters with Spacey that were on the verge of being called harassment, and shared the revelation that the actor would conduct candlelit picnics on the Old Vic stage with young male actors. It seems that it only took a male under 30 so that Mr. Spacey would feel free to touch us. The following day, a spokesperson for the theater stated that during Kevin Spacey's tenure as artistic director no complaints were made against him. No complaints have been made since he left. This was despite the fact that Vicky Featherstone, artistic director of the Royal Court, had commented that people had concerns about Spacey during his time there. The Old Vic later that day announced it was setting up an email mechanism by which anyone with concerns or complaints could approach the theater with the assurance of confidentiality. The stated aim was an inquiry into what had gone on. We will investigate the complaints with our external advisors. Yet questions were raised via a November 3 report on the BuzzFeed news site as to how confidential that process actually was. An actor described approaching the theater only to receive a response from its executive director Kate Vera. "I thought I would be dealing with some external person," he told the reporter. "But Vera is dealing with this one tune. That freaked me out because it ends my ability, in my eyes, to come forward." Vicky Featherstone, artistic director of the Royal Court Theatre, credit Paul Cooper the crucial need to establish how this all happened, who knew what and when, has built to a fever pitch. On November 2, The Guardian reported a former Old Vic employee as saying, "We were all involved in keeping it quiet. I witnessed him groping men many times in all sorts of different situations." Now the Stage newspaper has daringly published a front-page set of 6 questions. I reproduce them here because they're on the lips of many people. Were any of the Old Vic's trustees ever aware, to any degree, even via rumor or anecdote, of actual or alleged improper or illegal conduct by Spacey while he was at the Old Vic, or before he was appointed artistic director? What due diligence was done prior to his appointment if they were aware? What steps did they take to investigate whether the allegations were true or false if they were not aware? How is this possible given that rumors are alleged to have been an open secret among some staff and were widespread enough that an artistic director of another London theatre has claimed to be aware of them? What systems were in place to safeguard staff and others on the premises of the Old Vic from harassment if these safeguards failed? Why and how? What safeguards will now be put in place by the board to protect the workforce and others coming into contact with the theatre in future? Who are the external investigators who have been appointed? What is their precise remit? Are their services being offered to those contacting the confidential complaints line? Are they independent? If not, how can the complaint service be deemed confidential? The response so far has not been fully comprehensive or satisfactory. The Old Vic appears to have gone into a state of lockdown. Neither Warchus or Vera are available for interview at the moment. The Old Vic may be employing external advisors to investigate, but this is an investigation under their instruction. There is as yet no apparent will to establish a wholly independent inquiry. I have been told by the theatre's corporate PR the Old Vic will be reviewing the outcome of the investigation. Until this happens, we will not be making any decisions with regards to specific lines of questioning or interview requests. She anticipates that the so-called review will be completed by the end of this month. Frankly, this isn't good enough. There is no suggestion that Warchus and Vera are to be held directly accountable for what went on in the Spacey regime, though the former was an associate director there and Vera worked as chief operating officer. But they must have views on what went on, and Warchus is, despite his natural reticence, the face of the theatre now. Matthew Warchus below with Kevin Spacey in 2015. Credit Getty. The danger is that the cloud that hangs over the Old Vic in retrospect takes up a permanent position over the current regime. The theatre seems to be suffering a nasty case of may botatis, soldier on, minimize the sense of crisis and maximize the corporate ease. What is required is more transparency. I think we also need a swift admission that the theater alone cannot be expected to serve as a completely trustworthy seeker after the potentially uncomfortable facts. There must be a truly independent inquiry into what has happened. And it is only right as well that the Charity Commission has contacted board's trustees to seek clarification, and assess if there is a regulatory role for the commission. For those who have suffered the humiliation, degradation and even trauma of a non-consensual sexual approach by Spacey, it may be some relief that the spotlight is finally being shown on the behavior of a man who must have seemed untouchable. But the allegations throw up questions and concerns for everyone who has enjoyed work there over the past 13 years, and all those who have a stake in the commercial and creative success of British theatre. Fated by the great and the good, often the talk of the town, the Old Vic under Spacey was hailed as a model West End theatre, combining commercial know-how with a not-for-profit ethos. Spacey gained kudos through his ability to gild the stage with himself and other stars, put bums on seats, send critics into raptures and also do good in the community. We must be blinded no more. Of course, the problem of how to deal with the sexual harassment revelations rippling through the UK and US at the moment isn't restricted to just one theatre. One must mention the accusations of perturbing misconduct surrounding Max Stafford Clark, recently accused of making inappropriate sexual comments towards two staff members of the out-of-joint theatre company. Stafford Clark has wholeheartedly apologized, while a spokesperson for the director pointed out that he has suffered from occasional disinhibition since a stroke and brain injury in 2006. Nonetheless, the resulting media coverage put the theatre company in an unenviable spotlight, until a larger storm erupted about Spacey. The Royal Court is scheduled to host a revival of Andrea Dunbar's Rita, Sue and Bob 2, presented by Out of Joint, the touring company Stafford Clark set up in 1993 and ran until he abruptly left in September. It was already planning a day of action to bring theatre professionals together to look at power and abuse on the back of the Harvey Weinstein scandal before the Stafford Clark furore started. That resulted in a 30-point plan to tackle harassment in theatre, guidelines and a code of behavior to be adopted forthwith by the theatre, and expected to inspire others across the industry. Since then, Equity, the trade union, has also launched an investigation into the harassment crisis, expected to last 2 months. Harvey Weinstein scandal, Hollywood's harassment hall of shame. But while plans must rightly be drawn up for better practice and future, there's no ducking the challenge of looking at the past. One elephant in the room is Rita, Sue and Bob 2, which has Stafford Clark's fingerprints on it as co-director. It seems to me that it would be unconscionable for that revival to move to the Royal Court without a major statement of justification, or qualifying intent, from the theatre. My preferred option would be that the court seizes the moment to open up the conversation. My suggestion is for a substitute season of work responding to the issues raised, with many contributions. The big missing element so far is us. The way we revere the stars contributes to the power they wield. We have had statements about improving conditions for those working in the industry. Of course, the welfare of those who have been abused or might be open to abuse is paramount. But the sense of betrayal runs wide. There has been no attempt to reach out to the paying punters to clarify what has occurred, to apologize for what has happened and to offer a tangible shift in the culture. If the allegations are true, then what happened with Spacey implicates us all. It leaves us feeling hoodwinked that we have been party to alleged abuse through the act of attending shows when malign behavior has been going on behind the scenes. And it leaves us feeling indirectly culpable. The way we revere, adulate and often ovate the star players in our theater is a contributing factor to the power they wield. We love saviors who ride to the rescue of lost causes, visionaries who break the rules and develop cult followings. We allow fortress fiefdoms to grow. We must be blinded no more. The time for simply counting the benefits without fully interrogating the hidden costs is over. Whatever the psychological drivers and disturbances that motivate abuse, the environment in which it can thrive needs to be urgently considered if we're to avoid this happening again. We lost whatever innocence we might once have had about West End glamour this week. Silence isn't an option.